Does white privilege exist? The short answer, yes, but it's probably not what you think. Let us start off by introducing a concept I like to call layers of complication. These are factors that add complexity to a given decision that may or may not be within your control. You'll see why this concept is important later. But first, let us expose one of the major issues with white privilege as an idea. The problem with the concept of white privilege is that the language is misleading and unnecessarily divisive due to the underlying presumption that there are only inherent benefits to being white. But this is inaccurate because there are inherent benefits associated with any race. A better way to describe the benefits specific to whiteness would be default mode. For example, let's say you were trying to do the latest TikTok dance and miscalculated the distance between your face and the floor. You managed to scrape yourself up pretty good, so you go to the bathroom and bust open the pack of band-aids. Simple, right? Why is this relevant? Well, simply look at the default color of the band-aid. It's vanilla. In fact, if you aren't black, you may even mentally think of band-aids as being skin color, though I doubt you've ever had reason to think about it at all, which is the beauty of being default mode. You don't actually have to think about it because it's seamlessly woven into the very fabric of society. But Darwin, you're saying, that's silly. Band-aids being skin color doesn't qualify as any kind of significant benefit. And to you I say, you're wrong. Not about band-aids specifically, because that's meant to be an example of something with relatively low emotional charge that demonstrates the overarching point I am making. Let's tie this to the concept of layers of complication I mentioned earlier. A quick Google search reveals that Band-Aid, the company, didn't start producing dark skin colorways until 2020, which means before then, it's likely they were a specialty product that needed to be ordered online or were only available in niche retailers, presumably at a markup. Therefore, as a black person who simply wanted skin tone Band-Aids before 2020, you would have had to go out of your way to obtain them, simply because your skin is not seen as the default color. This is a layer of complication. Moving on, pun intended. Imagine that you wanted to purchase a home. As a white person, you do your due diligence in investigating what the area you're interested in is like. You look at factors like average seasonal temperature, population density, crime rate, the quality of schools in the area if you have children, and probably a variety of other relevant things. As a black person, I must look at all those things, but there is an additional layer of complication in that I need to know beforehand if the area is known to be friendly to people of color, or if the Alabama State Police will be trying to test their ropes on my black ass if I'm driving through the area after sundown, because that's a thing when you're black. You can't just move anywhere, even if you have the financial ability to do so. Another practical example, have you ever been restless at night and wanted to go for an evening jog? Well, let me ask, are you white? Because if you are, enjoy, mate. In most municipalities of the United States, you will be perfectly fine. As a black man, however, you run the risk of being stopped by the police and interrogated about where you're going, what are you doing, and Lord forbid there's been any sort of criminal activity that night, because guess what? You fit the description and you can find yourself in something of a pickle. In fact, when I used to walk on campus late at night, every time I'd see a lone woman walking, I'd say a silent prayer that nothing happened to her. Not simply because that's the right thing to do, but because if her pretty little self got snatched up, it puts me unnecessarily at risk. And that's ignoring the fact she probably already crossed the street and clutched her little raggedy ass purse to begin with, because Lord knows I'm dangerous. But I digress. Perhaps you are saying to yourself, what does any of this have to do with white privilege? Well, my Caucasian friend, I'm getting to it. The simple fact of the matter is that the inherent benefit of whiteness has little to do with financial factors, because those are a matter of self-perpetuating class systems, which I'm not touching in this particular video. The privilege is all the things I have to think about on a daily basis that have never even crossed your mind. And remember, if you are one of those fine fellows or madams that claim you don't see race, please be mindful that even if that's true, being able to not be intimately aware of all the socio-racial dynamics at play every moment is again a privilege of being the default mode. You could ignore these things because unless you're traipsing around the south side of Chirac at 2 a.m., which isn't a good idea for anyone that values their current physical incarnation, it's significantly unlikely that being white has ever put you in a position where you were endangered for no other reason than that. Being black and navigating the world safely literally requires a high level of skill, and to be quite honest, it is fucking stressful. With all that being said, as a majority, I don't believe black people are necessarily asking or expecting anything from white folks other than a bit of compassion and understanding that we're not making this shit up, because systemic racism / discrimination is very much a thing, and I can bust out the peer-reviewed research to support. So then, understand that there are also very much built-in societal benefits to being default mode, and it's by design that you don't have to think about them. Does a fish experience the concept of wetness, or does it just swim? The point of this video isn't that you as an individual who happens to not be black should feel guilty, because you didn't actually do anything other than being born, same as those of us who the sun doesn't cook like one of those lobster pots. Rather, the point is simply to give a different perspective on what I believe the so-called privilege is, in a way that's easy to digest. And with that, I go.